TikTok, it's time to rock. Hey guys, it's a special show. It's a special show for the British Electric Blues Show. If you guys are regulars to the channel, you'll know who I am. My name is Andrew, and if you're Foundation members, and there's a few of you here, you'll know this guy that's next to me, Charlie's Angel. He's one of them. He's one of Charlie's Angels, but his name is Carl. He was on the channel way back in the heyday. If you guys want to go back and have a look at some of the early shows that Carl and I did, you'll be surprised. We've changed. I've got more handsomer. So has Carl over time. So it's, you know, true. Time does good things to some people. But seriously, our channel started back 3 years ago, maybe even more. I don't know. And it was a show dedicated to all things Rolling Stones. So it was a common band that Carl and I had, and we decided we'd get together and would just hang out and talk Rolling Stones. So it's my pleasure, in a kind of sad way, to announce Carl for this special show. We'll have another Kiwi joining us, hopefully. But Carl, I'm going to get you to tell everybody why we're here.
Oh yeah, well, I had a couple of cats that sleep on my bed, and they wake me up. And when I can't fall back to sleep naturally, which I shouldn't do, I always check the news. I'm just an information junkie, and I couldn't believe it. 5:30 this morning, Charlie Watts passes away at the tender age of 80. And for me, it was surreal because as a Stones fan, we are programmed to think that they're going to last forever, because it's always the next tour. They're doing another album. Keith defies anything possible. As you know, when we write up our wills, the lawyers say things like, so what kind of world will you leave behind for Keith? Because he's indestructible, and so is Mick Jagger. But with seriousness all aside, they're getting older, like all of us. And I gave it a bit of thought this morning. It's a celebration, as well as obviously a time to mourn. 80 years old. He was there from the start. He was there on every album. He was the part of the machine, the rhythm section. He was a musician's musician. And apart from that, he was a husband, a father, a friend, and just an all-round good guy. So mixed emotions from me.
Yeah, well, I've got to tell you something. You know, we're in lockdown here in New Zealand, guys. So, you know, we're taking things slowly. So I got up in the morning, and like a lot of us, we've got bad habits. And my bad habit when I get up in the morning should be prayer. But I jump on my phone and have a look at social media accounts and see what's been happening. And just everywhere on my feed, it's, you know, Charlie Watts, and then, you know, put my glasses on and actually read, oh my gosh, he's passed away. So yeah, look, it's I'm going to echo exactly what you said. It's mixed emotions, to use that pun, because it's a celebration of a great life. It's a celebration of a rock and roll pioneer. And you know, we chuck these kind of descriptive words out, don't we, when musicians pass away, like confetti, but we don't mean that disrespectfully, you know, because we go and pick up these bits of confetti that we've chucked out, and we put them back into our hearts, into our being, into our soul, and we nurture them, and we're going to throw them out again when these heroes, these musical giants that have inspired us over the course of our lives. Again, it sounds like a cliche. It's a cliche, but it's something that we can all resonate with. It's the soundtrack to the good things that we've had. It's a soundtrack to the heartache and the sadness that we've had in our lives. And Charlie Watts, for me, is what was a part of a band that was instrumental in all these emotions. So I'm going to ask people in the chat, if you want to throw up a couple of words about, what Charlie meant to you. I don't know how long we're going to be doing the stream for. I'm going to do a quick shout out, Carl, before I just get you to do a few more little comments and observations over the course of your career as a Stones nut. We've got obviously first in the chat, Kurt 5150, co-host on the 5150 show, which is related to this channel. Our brother in the UK, Simon Williams. The Ruck Professor is here. Arvin, all the way from Canada, who's been with us right from the word go. Julia, we've got Julia in the chat. Haven't seen you for a long time, Julia. Philip Byers, thank you, Philip. Alan from Australia is in the chat. Thank you. Hugh Caldwell, another friend of the channel. Thank you guys for jumping in. Simon, we got Hoss in the chat. Simon Horsford, sorry. Who else have we missed? Stephen, thank you for joining us. Music Labs Therapy. Johnny Beans in the chat. And if I've missed anybody else, please forgive me. So I'm just glad that Carl and I have got an opportunity, because normally we would be working, guys. It's 8:40 here in the morning. I'll be at work, and Carl will be doing some wheels and some deals that he's pretty good at. But we can't do that. So let's talk Charlie Watson and Rolling Stones. So we never get tired of talking about all things Rolling Stones. So, Carl, I just want you to tell everyone in the chat, what is it about the Rolling Stones for you? What made that band the band that you wanted to get to know everything about? And in particular, what was it about Charlie Watts and his contribution that inspired you when you were a young guy?
Like a lot of the drummers I like all seem to have jazz backgrounds. Charlie Watts was he was influenced by jazz. And then obviously jazz and trad jazz in England at that particular time when they started was fuddy-duddy music. So he basically said, I'll give these guys a shot. And he's learned obviously blues patterns, and he learnt them really well. And if you like swing or you like blues, you realize less is more. So Charlie Watts, from day one, the space between the beat was integral, because they didn't sound like a whole bunch of just, I'm not going to use, well, yeah, they didn't sound like a whole bunch of just teenagers. They sound like quite mature men. So he was a big driving part of that band. And my 7-year-old ears at that particular time, 8 years old, as much as I didn't know about music, I could tell this guy meant business and these guys meant business. And that just drew me in. And what I liked about Charlie was he was just so humble. The interviews, he had a very dry sense of humor. He was very loyal. He basically just did his job. He showed up every day and did his job. That's what I like about Charlie. He could adapt. I mean, as we go through their career, obviously they started out blues, Chuck Berry, then they went through the R&B soul phase, the psychedelic phase, back to hard rock, and obviously their reggae Black and Blue album. He was just a great drummer. And simple is best. I'll keep re-emphasizing that. Simple is best. That's what I like about Charlie. Basically, he was the engine room. He kept the baby purring. Yeah.
Look, I agree with you. I became conscious and aware of the Rolling Stones around the release of Tattoo You. Now, I've said this before on a lot of other shows. You know, I grew up listening to classic rock radio, Carl, pretty much the same as you. So at a young age, we heard Satisfaction. We knew all those early songs, but it wasn't until Start Me Up was released in that riff. And I remember push biking into town, into Tandy's, to buy that album after school and push biking home. Because I needed this album. There was something about that riff that just hooked me, and then that was the way that I discovered the Rolling Stones. And you know, one of the great things, because look, I love the rhythm section in a band, and I don't know anything about drumming. Don't know anything about it at all. I've spoken to a lot of drummers over the years, like yourself. And it's really, really interesting how they talk about Charlie Watts and how important he is. So ironically, last night I was watching the new documentary on Netflix, which is about drumming. I think it was only released about 2 or 3 days ago on Netflix. So it's interviewing contemporary drummers and famous drummers about why and how they got into drumming. So I'm halfway through it. And so obviously they talk about Ringo Starr, and then they talk about Charlie Watts. But what was really interesting about this documentary, Carl, is that they're interviewing the drummer from Deep Purple. What's his name?
Ian Pace.
Yes, Ian Pace. So they're interviewing Ian, and Ian gives this wonderful example of why Charlie was so cool, because most drummers are going, but Charlie misses out a note.
Yeah.
And that's what gives Charlie the swing.
Correct.
And I'm going, yes, brother. That's so in 30 seconds we've got Charlie Watts nailed down to why he's so good, and how Keith and Bill in particular picked up on that. Remarkable.
And from day one to now, he always had a stripped down kit, Gretsch drum kit. And
I'm going to show some photos.
Yeah, he didn't have the double kick. He didn't have a whole bunch of toms. It was a stripped down jazz kit, and less is more. It was amazing. And you're exactly right. That swing, and just the sound, the way he tuned it, the snare, he was just on the money all the time. Ginger Baker raved about him, and we know that Ginger Baker is a phenomenal drummer. And I imagine getting back to the Stones, Keith in particular. I know Mick's going to be mourning hard, but Keith would be mourning very, very hard. Keith just loved him. Charlie said they're the only band that follows the guitar player. Is that right? Not the drummer.
That's correct.
So they had a very, very close relationship, Charlie and Keith, off stage and on the stage, and in the studio, obviously. Yeah. That's very, 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 very sad. Very sad. Yeah, and every tour, he's just in the back. You don't see him. There's never any scandal or anything. He just does his job. And he did his job so well.
Yeah, so. Yeah. Well, there's some cool documentaries out there. You know, obviously on Netflix, there's Keith's documentary, which, that's a bit old now. It came out about 5 or 6 years ago, so it's mandatory to watch that. But there's also Stones in Exile, which is really, really cool. That's available on Apple TV, and I think you can get that with the there's a DVD available, and it's really, really cool because it interviews, the documentary interviews interviews Mick and Charlie as they go through into Olympic Studios, and they're talking a little bit about, how they recorded, where they were recorded, and their experiences in France, and how Charlie didn't like that and Bill didn't like that,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a sad time. I'm going to, over the next couple of days before we go back to work, I'm just going to soak myself in these documentaries. Crossfire Hurricane again's another outstanding documentary which talks about the history of the Rolling Stones, and I think the point that you made about Keith in particular, it's a valid comment. It's a valid statement. He talks about him with love, tenderness, with this affection that that only someone with a true friend can appreciate. So if you've got a true friend out there, you can appreciate what Keith is saying in his biography about Charlie. They're brothers.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And Charlie actually, when the Stones kicked off, obviously Brian got a lot of credit, and a lot of the credit was warranted. He named the band. He was the driving force. He got the gigs. He chose the songs. He had a reputation that gave them that bluesy edge. However, the previous drummer, I think they auditioned a Kinks drummer, and Keith said on record quite a few times, terrible. So the band actually got going once Charlie auditioned and was a fully fledged member, because then they became tight and started that gelling. Prior to that, they were just like any other garage band. They were just pretty rough. So Charlie was a big part of that glue from day one.
Yeah,
a big loss, huge loss.
So just hold on, mate. Hold on. I'm just going to get some photos up here. Just what's the date today? The 25th. So I'll put that one there.
I'm looking forward to Richard coming on. I've got a question for him.
So So if you guys have some time, go back on the channel. Carl and I have interviewed Richard Fox. He's a legend here in New Zealand, but also a legend in the Rolling Stones community. He has a house basically set up that's full of Rolling Stones memorabilia. I'll put a couple of links to some articles and other shows that he's done, and also our show here on this show later. But he's seen the Rolling Stones, Carl, how many times? Can you remember?
37?
No.
70?
No, I think it's about 40. I'm going to text him. Where is he? I think he's seen them around 45 times.
Wow.
Hold on, I'm going to see where he is. Come on, mate. Where are you?
Because he actually, I'm looking forward to him coming on, because he's actually got a very personal and upfront photo of him and Charlie together.
Yeah. So yeah, we're going to talk hopefully to him. So while I'm just collecting my thoughts, guys, I'm just going to Carl, and again, I'll give you an opportunity for you to sort of collect some thoughts too. I'm just going to do a quick shout out. We've got some other people that have jumped in here. So we've got Mighty Vape. Saw them last in 2017 in Holland. Good to see you, Mighty Vape. We've got Janice Lala joining us. Janice, I hope you're going to get well soon. She's not feeling too well. Hugh Caldwell, who is regular to our channel, just has a lot of respect for the Stones in particular. Simon Williams has got a comment. One of the first songs he learned to play on electric guitar was Tumbling Dice. Yep. So I hope that he was playing it with the open G with the capo on the, is it the 4th fret or the 5th fret? It's been a while since I've played that. So, or is he cheating and just playing at the open 5-6 string way?
He's doing Mick Taylor's.
He's doing Mick Taylor's part. So yeah. Kurt, our brother, on the 5150 show, his dad loves the Stones because Kurt's dad was in Vietnam. So, you know, those films that you see where the helicopters flying over Vietnam and they're playing Jumping Jack Flash, you know, Kurt's dad was one of those guys, you know, listening to the Rolling Stones.
that famous show, the Tour of Duty, the soundtrack, the theme songs painted black, wasn't it? And once again, that gives you an idea, or at least gives you an example of how Charlie can adapt to any beat. Great drumming. Yeah. Wow.
Stephen saw them. Sorry, brother. Sorry. So Stephen saw them in 2019 in New Jersey. So yeah. So I've got a couple of questions I want to ask you. So we're now for the Rolling Stones.
Wow. I was thinking about this morning. So, I mean, obviously, when we think of the Stones, we think of primarily Jagger, Richards, the songwriters, the front men. A true Stones fan obviously knows them as basically a band, but B, Billy Wyman and Charlie Watts, the engine room. You know, those guys were the ones that made it happen. So with Bill Wyman obviously been gone since '93, and Charlie now, I know that Keith and Mick love to play, and I'm glad that we like them to play, because obviously they give everybody a lot of entertainment and they love doing what they're doing. But I imagine they'll probably keep pushing forward. Is it who's the drummer that is it from Keith's solo band? Is it Steve Jordan? Is it?
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather them keep going. I mean, I don't want them to have the Led Zeppelin approach of, John Bonham's gone, that's it. I mean, they can still pay tribute to Charlie every song, every concert, every tour. It's not going to be the same naturally, but you look at the course of many bands over many decades, and we've been very fortunate with the Rolling Stones that 4 members were there from 62 to 93. 3 members were there from 62 to 2021. Look at how many lineup changes in Megadeth and Guns N' Roses and so many bands. It's just common, lineup changes. So we've been very fortunate as Stones fans to have a very core group from day one. Very core group. But it'd be interesting to see what the rhythm section sounds like. I mean, I'd wait. I'm looking forward to hearing an announcement from Keith and Mick in this COVID world, because America's not shut down, right? They're doing an American tour. Is that right?
Correct. So well, yeah. So yeah, look, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? And we're going to be obviously anticipating some kind of official release from the Rolling Stones.
Yes.
And it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. It's going to take time. They've lost a brother. Do we need a message from Keith? Do we need something from Mick Jagger? No, we don't. We've got the music, we've got the memories, and we've got our show, and and other shows like it, where we can all jump on and talk about the Rolling Stones and Charlie Watts. But look, I agree with you. I think the Stones will carry on. I'm sure that's what drives Mick and Keith. I'll be interested to hear what Foxy's got to say about that too.
Yeah.
They've proven themselves. They had an issue with Brian Jones and went stellar with Mick Taylor. That was an important period of the band. That golden run period. Then Ronnie Wood came in, and a lot of people said, "Well, they won't survive." They went on a different direction with a couple of albums, and became a monster. Then Bill decided to put the bass down and do a couple of other things. So, and that was a seamless kind of change. And I know that a lot of Stones fans rightly talk about the differences in tone from Daryl and Bill. Of course there is. And if they decide to pick another drummer, whoever drums with them is going to fill I suppose, some big boots. But
Yeah.
Mick's played with other drummers. He's released solo albums. He's played with other session musicians. The same thing with Keith. So it's not as if they haven't played, with other drummers. So I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue for them. So we've got a couple of comments here in the chat. We've got a long-time viewer of the channel, Kubrick Lover, joining us. We haven't seen Kubrick for a long, long time. You might remember him when you were doing these shows early with us. Good to see you, Kubrick. In fact, there's a couple of shows where Simon and I have had Kubrick Lover on, so good to see you. Mo Show, good to see you, Mo Show.
Obviously, I'm pretty sure it's Steve Jordan, because if you watch it's a Hail Hail Rock and Roll, Chuck Berry's 60th birthday.
Carl. And we have connection issues, do we? We have connection issues. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Is it my end or is it other people's end? So I'm just going to sit here, guys, because I don't know what's going on here. We're in lockdown and everybody seems to be on computers. So if anyone can hear me, if I'm live, drop some messages into the chat. I can see spinning wheels, so I don't know if it's me spinning or my co-host. So I'm just going to sit here and talk about the Rolling Stones and ask you guys what your favorite albums are. Okay, so I've got a message here from Kurt saying I'm okay. So I'm live. Can hear you, Andrew? Okay, so where's my guests? Where are my guests? Okay, so I'm going to ask Carl. I'm going to ask Carl and Richard to see if they can come back in. Hold on, guys. I don't know what the heck's going on here. Hold on. Carl.
Yes.
Carl. Okay, so I lost you there for a couple of... Yeah, I lost you there for a couple of minutes.
Hear me?
And
someone's coming in.
Just hold on. I couldn't get Richard Fox in for some reason, so I don't know whether it's my connection or everybody in New Zealand's on lockdown doing shows in tribute to Charlie Watts, I think. Hold on. Join us again, please. Don't know what's going on. Okay, so you guys can hear me. So unfortunately, I don't know what's happening with my co-hosts. I've asked them to jump on, and we'll just wait till they do. What you guys have to remember in North America, here in New Zealand, we're on the arse end of the world, so the internet speed that we have down here is nowhere near the capabilities that our North American and European brothers and sisters experience. So something that we have to put on. Okay, so Richard's saying that he's trying. Okay, I'm on air. Hold on, guys. I'm talking to these guys as well, so just bear with us. I'm on air. So just to let these guys know. All right, so someone's jumped in. Okay, here, what's going on here? Add to the stream.
Can you hear me? See me?
I can hear you, brother. I can hear you. I can see you. We're just waiting for Richard to jump in. He's got the spinning wheel.
I think what happened before, Richard was trying to jump in. It knocked me out. That's all right.
No. No, it's all to do with internet connections, brother. Trust me.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So
I saw another
where
square buffering, and then I couldn't. I could see you, but you froze.
yeah. Okay. So it's one of the great things, guys, about doing live shows, internet connections. So oh, look, apparently, oh no, Stephen's saying no, they get technical problems in North America too. So it's not the burden of being on the arse end of the world, Carl. So what we were talking about, Charlie Watts. We were talking about whether or not the Rolling Stones as a band were going to continue, and some of the
Yeah.
thoughts around that, because I think that's a natural question that fans are going to ask. I think it's something that we have to ask.
Well, I think what would be crucial, well, it's going to be inevitable, is what the rehearsals will be like with the new drummer. Um, you, you know, because Keith and Mick are very particular about this sound. They want it to be a Stonesy sound. I think Keith and Mick, you mentioned before, have done their solo stuff before. They're not, they've got some good musicians around them. It'd just be interesting to see what the how the I guess the tour rehearsals will go. That'll be very interesting. So yeah, but I'm yeah. When does that new tour kick off?
Well, we don't know now, do we? We don't know. So I suppose we have to wait for a date
When
now.
does the new tour kick off?
I haven't heard anything, so we have to wait. You're buffering, brother. So if I'm repeating myself,
Hello.
oh my lord. Okay. So we just might have to continue persevering with this, otherwise we might just pull the plug. You want to try again, Carl? You want to try connecting again? So obviously where Carl is, he's got no connection, and I can't get right, here we go. Is Foxy here? He's trying to jump in. There he is. Foxy. 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 Lady. Foxy. Oh my lord. I can see you. Foxy.
Well, that's nice. Everyone can hear me and see me, but I can't hear you. I can see Carl, but he's frozen.
He's
yeah, this isn't happening.
Well, we can hear you and see you, if that's okay. Can you hear me?
Screen. I've got my mic on mute.
No, we can.
Oh, there's some audio. I can hear someone. Hello.
We can see you and hear you.
Oh,
we can see you.
Are you there, Andrew?
Yep.
Oh, you can see. Well, that's good. That's good. I'm glad you can. I can't see you.
We can hear you.
I'll just bring my friend to the party. My little friend here to the party today. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is ridiculous.
So where's Carl?
The problem is, if you're listening to me, everyone at home is trying to use the internet to do schoolwork or work, and our Wi-Fi is crap. And I'm trying to hotspot from my phone to my laptop, and none of it is happening.
Okay. Can you hear me?
It's not happening.
Can you hear me, brother?
I will leave the show and try again.
Oh, Lord. Okay. So I'm back here by myself again until we get some co-hosts. We might try a third time, otherwise we'll just pan it. But look, we've got 15 people watching us, trying to jump in and hear what some Kiwis have to say about the Rolling Stones, in particular Charlie Watts. Big part of our lives, as we said earlier at the top of the show. And obviously, Charlie means a lot to you guys as well. So we'll try Carl again. We've got Carl again. Testing, 1, 2, 3. We've got Carl.
Yep, I'm back. I can see you crystal clear. Hear
Awesome.
you crystal clear. So Richard's having a hard time getting in.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Richard.
Here he is.
I'm just spinning wheels again.
We can see you. We can hear
you. See me, Richard? I can see you.
Can I join by audio or something, Andrew? Can we just talk and I don't have to be there and you can listen to me over the phone or something?
We can hear you.
Try that.
I'm messaging you. We can hear you. So you guys are getting a bit of an idea of light. Foxy. Well, we can see you. we can see you live. Okay, we'll try that. Okay, just try again. Yeah, just hold on, brother. It's all good. So you're spinning. Okay, so what I might do is I'm going to hold you up to the mic and see if people can hear you talk. So just hold on for a second. So I'm going to put my phone up to the mic, guys, and I'm going to get Richard to talk. And if you guys...
Hello, testing. 2,
Here he
3,
is.
4. Can you hear me?
Okay, so we can see you.
Okay, cool. Well, that's a start.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna end this call.
Okay, but I can't hear you, then. I can't talk though. So you can't.
You can't hear. You can you hear me? Can you hear me? No.
You need to stay on the call because I can't hear you. So hence why we needed the phone. Okay. Yes. Okay, you're gonna call me back. Hello.
Okay. All right. So you. Okay. So.
Oh, sorry, I'm a pain in the ass, mate. Oh, yeah.
That's all right.
Are you in Rotorua or Auckland?
It's radio, live radio, or live whatever we are. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to turn that down a bit.
Okay.
So can you hear that?
Yes, I can hear that. Yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic. So obviously we want to hear what you have to say and your thoughts about Charlie, please.
Wow. I woke up this morning 6 o'clock-ish or something, a bit earlier than normal, and my phone had a lot more messages. You see the message light saying how many messages you've got, and there was a ton of messages, and there was lots of "I'm sorry" and we predicted this, and I was expecting that it was all to do with the tour being cancelled because we've been expecting the USA tour to be cancelled. Little did we know that, expecting that Charlie was going to pass away. I knew that he had, as you probably all know, he had a procedure that was successful a while ago, and we assumed he was at home recovering and was going to be fine. I knew that he would not be on this American tour, and also from what I've been heard is that he would not be playing. There would be no more 2-hour Charlie Watts concerts ever again with the Rolling Stones. that he might do guest appearances or something. Basically, he was retiring, and partly because of health and partly because of out of desire. You know, he's tired. He's an old man. He's 80. And it's hard work. His job's the hardest, other than Mick's, arguably. You know, it's harder than the guitar players, you know, banging away on the drums for 2 hours. So, so I've kind of got my head around the fact that I probably wouldn't see Charlie again, or if I did, it might be in London next year for a couple of shows or something, you know, for a few songs on these shows. But then to hear that he'd passed away was just unbelievable. You know, I thought he was going to retire now and he was going to, you know, go home and hang out with Shirley and look after horses and dogs and all that sort of stuff and live to, you know, his mid 80s or 90s and just, you know, die peacefully like that. But obviously, from what one of my friends sent me something today, I haven't read what the media has had to say, just what fans have been saying today nonstop, that he had a second urgent medical procedure and that one hadn't gone well. So that's clearly what happened, and he was at least surrounded by his family in hospital today when he passed away in London, I guess. So yeah, so it's a huge loss to the rock and roll world, huge loss to, you know, Stones fans in particular, and obviously even huger loss to his family. Charlie was the rock in the Stones. You know, Keith had often said, I only play because I want to play with Charlie Watts, and you know, but it's a whole nother story now. But yeah, it's just, yeah, you know, he always looked after himself. He was, you know, he had a little bit of a coke or heroin issue in the early 80s or something, I think. But other than that, he's a slim, healthy looking guy. So it was a shock to hear all this. I don't know what caused it. I don't know if you guys have heard or anything, but I'm assuming we're thinking maybe a couple of people said maybe it's his throat cancer's returned.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I heard that he'd given up cigarettes in the late 80s.
Sad day, you know. You know, some will say the greatest drummer of all time, and everyone will disagree or whatever. He was the best drummer for the Stones. You know, he was the swing that came with Keith's role. You know, or Keith's rock and his role and all that in the Stones, all the cliches. But he was always a gentleman.
Can you hear
Carl at all?
No, I can't hear Carl.
Okay, so that's a bit of a bummer. So
I'm sorry, Carl. Type.
Can you hear me, Andrew? Can you hear me, Andrew?
I'll shut up now. You can't put the speaker next to the microphone as well.
So Andrew, you can hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you, brother.
Okay. So
my wheels are still spinning. So yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll talk.
Very good.
I'll talk, and then Andrew repeats what I said, and then Andrew can relay that back to Richard.
Okay, so Carl is going to ask you a couple of questions.
Yeah. Hold on. My son's calling, and I might have to end this call very quickly. Hold on. I need to take this. Yep.
We'll just put him out of the. We'll put him out of the chat. Holy cow! We got Nerd Halen in here too. A good friend of the 5150 show. Fell in love with rock and roll music through the Rolling Stones and also the Who. So, and it opened up the door to further music, i.e. Van Halen, Carl. So the Rolling Stones are responsible for a lot of awakenings, Carl.
Oh, big time. I was watching an old Mick interview yesterday, and it was around 78. And no matter what they threw at the Stones as far as the genre of that particular time, which 78 happened to be punk, the Stones threw back at them with Some Girls, a punk album. And what a great drummer. Yeah.
So Foxy mentioned something really, really interesting in his discussion piece about Charlie's heroin addiction. So interesting that he picked that up when the other guys in the band had been there and done that and ditched it.
It was unusual, yes. Charlie had been straight-laced from the jump, from 62, and around the time of the Dirty Work album, and actually on the actual cover of the album, he's strung out. He said it was described as a bit of a midlife crisis. All of a sudden he was doing a bit of heroin and boozing a bit, and it almost affected everything. It affected his marriage, his relationship with his daughter, and actually being in the band. And thank God he managed to come to grips and get clean, because he was the one that actually, being straight and being there, and like I said at the start of the show, being the guy that showed up and did his part well, he was the glue. He kept the band together. So, very interesting time, those mid-'80s.
Yeah.
Very interesting time.
Yeah. I look, I agree with you, and it's kind of interesting because I remember when I found out about that, I thought, oh, okay, this is Charlie Watts doing that jazz thing that, you know, all these jazz musicians, you know, all these Charlie Parkers have to do, you know, they have to go down that road. You know, Clapton did it, you know, it's like, it's like offering some authenticity to who they are as rock and roll royalty, you know. Hey, I've been down this track, but look, it's a romanticized view of it, isn't it? You know, we don't know. There's a lot of theories out there as to why he picked that habit up, but I suppose the point, Carl, that you made, which is the best thing about it, is that he managed to ditch it, get over it.
Oh yeah, because I mean, the Stones need him, and like Richard said, and you said before, Keith plays because Charlie plays, you know. So I mean, Charlie being there as a rock to the role makes the Stones machine, the engine, work. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what these rehearsals are like. It's a bit of a shame we can't get Richard on, but it'd be. I want to see. I want to basically. I'm looking forward to actually hearing what Mick and Keith will have to say, because I mean, as a Stones lover, we want them to keep playing. They're to us, in a way, they're still immortal to some degree.
I think what we might have to do is we might have to repeat this show later on, because I'd love to get Foxy on. So if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do, because Carl and I will organise something with Foxy, and we've got to get this guy on, because he is he won't say it, but we can. He is an absolute giant when it comes to all things Rolling Stones. This guy has got a lot of connections out there, a lot of information. But one of the reasons why we love him so much isn't because of that. It's because he loves the Rolling Stones more than we do, which is hard to comprehend.
Absolutely. Oh yeah,
So we'll do something. I'm just going to flick up a couple of graphics here, bro. So that's Charlie's drum kit.
Wow, look at that. Stripped down, isn't it?
So that's pretty much what he started with in the early 60s. And guess what? That's his drum kit there too.
Amazing. So he's got a bass drum, he's got a snare, I think they're called a high tom, a tom.
Yep.
A splash and a what's it called? A ride cymbal.
Correct.
And that's it.
And
that's it.
And a cowbell somewhere for honky tonk woman.
Yeah. Amazing. Far out. Look at that. You compare that to Tommy Lee's. Two different drummers.
Or well, yeah.
I can see Charlie. Those other drummers, you can't see them.
Rock and roll, brother. Rock and roll. But like I said earlier, you know, I was watching that Netflix documentary about drumming, which was only released a couple of days ago. I'm halfway through it. But the good thing about this documentary is that it plots correctly the rise and the trajectory of rock and roll drumming. So far so good. You know, it's and yeah. I suppose for me, what I always liked about Charlie Watts, before I knew anything about music other than liking it, was the way that he just didn't fit in, and he was part of this rock and roll band, and there was Bill Wyman over here who kind of didn't fit in too, and you had Charlie Watts here who kind of didn't fit in, and over here you had this like separate little party going on between the lead singer and two guitar players, and it kind of made it like, well, you didn't have to be in this big party over here to be part of the group, I could be part of the group but still be over here, Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually quite good in a way because, I mean, like I said, he kept the band together because if you had 5 big egos and 5 indestructible people, the Stones could have imploded. Charlie, with his skill, was obviously very wise. Very conservative, a very dapper dresser, very well spoken. We remember that famous episode, and was it in 1988, where Mick was drunk, wasn't he? He says, "Where's my drummer?" And this is a great story. And Charlie got up, shaved, had breakfast, put on his suit, put on his tie, and gave him a big left-handed. What was that famous quote? I'm not your drummer, you're my singer, or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Thank you for bringing that up. That because that's wonderful. But look, I think you raise a good point there about the way that Mick looked at Charlie. Look, how many times is Charlie mentioned in their songs? Charlie, good tonight, ain't he? On Beggar's Banquet, the drummer looked so
shattered.
Yeah, that's it. Gosh,
yeah. Trying to keep Jigsaw Puzzle Blues. Yeah. Charlie, they used to love Charlie in the 60s. He'd do a lot of the announcements of the songs. They used to try, because imagine he was a very shy guy. So there's some old clips where he's introducing the band. And they just loved him, They loved him. They just loved him because, once again, a very dry sense of humour too. So behind that shy shell was a very intelligent, witty guy. A great personality. What a personality. And, I mean, obviously, with musicians, we hear egos, we hear falling outs, we hear, no, I've never heard anyone say a bad thing about Charlie, ever, from any musician, from any Stone, any fan, ever.
No. And what's really interesting too, in Keith's biography, he talks about how Brian Jones, in particular, used to love giving shit to people. He loved it. He loved teasing people and giving people shit and talking cheeky to them when they asked questions and stuff like that. And he detected that Brian wanted to do that with Charlie. But it was because of the connection that Keith had with Charlie that Brian Jones didn't, because he knew that if he was going to give Charlie a bit of shit, he was going to be in trouble with Keith. So, so I kind of like this, these real life stories that we can all kind of relate to. How many times have we brought a friend into a circle of mates and friends, and someone said, I don't like that guy, and you say, well, he's my mate, so shut up and put up with him, otherwise I'm going to whack you.
Yeah, a true London boy. And something else that I read, which I already knew in a way, but it was quite good to read it because it just basically reaffirmed what I already thought, was the groupies would throw themselves at Charlie, and Charlie was like, no, family man, Shirley, got my daughter, got my horses, got my, an anti-rock star, really, but the guy that did his job.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned his wife, because how important was she? If yeah, if you're a married guy, everybody knows how important a wife is. But I suppose any kind of discussion we have has to include that rock that he had with his wife. Right from the word go.
Oh, amazing. I mean, very conservative guy. And there's a famous clip on the '89 tour where it's a bit like being on lockdown. Part of you likes to relax, the other part of you wants to get on the road. And Charlie says, well, I don't like being on the road, so I go home. I'm bored, so I go in my room and play my drums. But how do you play drums on your own? I want to be in a band. So it was a double-edged sword. He kept going out on the road. And he kept saying, this will be the last tour. And this was in '89. And he said, hanging around for 3 days and we're playing for 2 hours. That's my life. Suitcases. But deep down, he loved it. He loved it. I mean, the euphoria he got when the band was on the money that night, you see the look in their eyes on the shows. It's just, and there's a deep founded respect from Charlie, from the guys, and from the guys back to Charlie. And Ron Wood, I mean, the Baby Stone talks about Charlie and very talks about him in a very much a strong light. So it's almost like another Ian Stewart almost now. I mean, I think Ian Stewart passed in '84, wasn't it? It was about '84.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting about that Stones in Exile documentary too, there's a couple of good little interviews, and we've discussed this before on earlier shows that we did years ago, Carl. But there's one comment that I always loved that Charlie made. He said that I play drums for Mick and Keith. That's what I do. Because they were talking about his love of jazz music, and how he loves that. That's his first love. And they were asking, well, how do you compromise, or how do you balance that with being a drummer in the Rolling Stones, playing for the fans, etc. And he said something like, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to go back and watch it after we've done this show. Well, it's easy. I just play drums for Mick and Keith.
Wow. And what a guy, what a loyal guy. But I mean, if you've been with something from day one and you've seen the band just grow and grow, why not be there for the whole ride? Why jump off? We know that Bill left because of his fear of flying. If it was a simpler world, but maybe Bill would still be there. I mean, that's why the band is so great. There's a real love there, and a love for their fans, and a love for each other.
Oh, and of course, and look at that period where Keith and Mick were at war with each other. Look at that period and they were firing shots at each other. But one of the great things about the Rolling Stones is that, the other band members didn't say anything. Nothing.
Yeah, that was about the time that that Charlie was going through his heroin phase. It was a funny time, that '85 Dirty Work tour, because after that, it was actually quite a good. The writing was on the wall, because after that '85, then they started to branch out and do their solo things, which is probably a good thing to do. You mentioned Mick Jagger went to Japan with Tina Turner and Jeff Beck. Keith started to play with Waddy Wachtel and Steve Jordan, the Expensive Winos. I think Ron did something with Bo Diddley, and Charlie did his, which I'm glad he did. He did his jazz band stuff, didn't he?
Yes.
And Bill Wyman had a love affair for rockabilly and did some rockabilly side stuff. And Charlie got to dress in his suit and do his jazz thing. So you couldn't have written a better book. That's why today it's a bit of a celebration, even though it's a day of mourning, because 80 years old, went peacefully, surrounded by his loved ones. We've had what's 80 minus 62, 1962 to 2021, 60. Wow, just shy of 60 years, isn't it? 62 to 2022. That's 59 years. Wow. Of a guy from day one till now. And actually, and if to all you to people out there who are Stones fans or wanting to become Stones fans, if you want to hear how a humble musician talks, watch some of Charlie's interviews online with, especially on the American late night shows. A very graceful man.
Just hold on, brother. I'm just messaging Foxy.
Yep.
So he's not going to join us. So I'm just replying back to him saying we can do a show this evening or tomorrow evening, please. We really want to talk to you.
Because Richard has got some great stories with Charlie Watts, so that's why it'd be great for him to be on for sure.
Okay, guys. So Foxy's just replied back saying tomorrow might be better. Okay, so we're going to, you guys are going to be in for a treat because tomorrow we're going to get Foxy on, and we'll do something with Foxy. We've got to get Foxy on. As much as Carl and I know a little bit about the Rolling Stones, we've got to get a perspective from Foxy live.
Absolutely.
I just want to talk a little bit about the bust up between Keith and Mick, because it's a point that I want to elaborate a little bit more on and get some of your thoughts on, because a lot of band members would take that opportunity to sell books and write books and make movies and make billions of dollars on telling their side of the story, or siding with somebody and saying, Mick did this and Keith did that. You would expect a lot of bands to do that, wouldn't you? And there's probably, I can't think of anything off the top of my head where, some band members, peripheral members, have gone out there and made a gazillion dollars by telling the inside beans. So again, full credit to the guys in the Stones, to Bill, because even in Stone Alone, he doesn't talk too much about that period. He talks a little bit about some of the way, that the band members treated Brian Jones, but he doesn't offer any dirt on, the split between Keith and Mick.
No. I mean, it's only human nature to have disagreements. I mean, from Mick Taylor obviously left because there were some songwriting issues. He felt that he was, he wrote "Time Waits for No One," or he should have got a credit for this song or that song. And then obviously you mentioned Bill Wyman and Stone Alone had a few gripes about how they treated Brian, and Brian should have got more credit. And there's rumours that it was Brian and Bill Wyman that wrote Jumping Jack Flash because they were at the studio before Mick and Keith came, and Bill was playing around on the organ, and then Brian came up with a bit of a riff, and the guys said, "Hey, that sounds great." And 2 days later, Jumping Jack Flash credits Jagger Richards. So, but Charlie was a very clever guy. He kept out of it. He's a very clever guy. And you've mentioned this in a lot of shows that they came from art school. Charlie was a trained graphic designer. He actually designs a lot of the tours, the stages. Between the buttons, that was all his artwork on the back. So he was just a very clever guy. He was he had the unfortunate position of actually being in the car driving to Brian's house to be basically on the side of Mick and Keith saying, "Hey cock, you're fired." Which some people thought, well, he should have really been on Brian's side, but Charlie's a very clever guy. Like I said before, he's the glue. He behind the scenes, he kept everything going.
Well, what's really interesting about that example is that the other Stones had to take Charlie because they were too scared to go by themselves. So that's what I reckon. Yeah,
and that shows you that Charlie had a respect level where he was the sensible guy in the band as far as decision making. He was a guy that didn't necessarily write any songs, but when Charlie spoke, it held a lot of weight.
Yeah, and look, I don't want to correct you. You know, far be it from me to correct you, but I think there's another point too that we need to elaborate on when it comes to Mick Taylor leaving the Stones. You know, and that became evident to us at the release of Crossfire Hurricane, the 50th anniversary DVD, where Mick Taylor talks about he had developed a heroin habit too. So. I wasn't aware of that. I always thought, like a lot of people, that he'd got a bit pissed off because he wasn't getting these song royalties that Carl mentioned. But there was just something a little bit closer to home too, that if he was going to stay in the Rolling Stones, he was going to probably die.
That's right. That's right. And Charlie had probably recognised from day one. He probably thought, you know what, there's a very special chemistry between Jagger Richards. They're a songwriting team in the realm of, in the league of Lennon, McCartney's, so forth. So I like my band. I like my music. I'm going to be the sensible guy behind closed doors that's going to, do a job, but sort of be the rock as well. Because Keith Richards said the only way to get out of the band is in a box, which is unfortunately seems to be the case with the Brian Joneses and that. But it probably wouldn't be easy. I mean, a couple of strong personalities, the Jagger Richards, and obviously the managers, the publicists, a lot of the spotlight goes on Jagger Richards. So, yeah. It's very, very, very. It wouldn't be easy being in a band. It wouldn't be easy at all.
Well, not
at all.
Not the Rolling Stones. There's another cool little thing that I want to pass on and share with you guys too that blew me away. And Charlie talks about everybody that hangs around the Rolling Stones, everybody wants to be Keith Richards. He used to sit there, go to all these parties, and he said, people would see Keith and they'd want to take all these drugs and drink all this booze and drink everything, because they wanted to be Keith. And he says, he's going, oh, I know Keith. What the hell do you guys want to be?
Because apparently John Lennon went to his house and tried to be like Keith, and then ended up going home throwing up.
Well, that's a very good point, and he mentions that in his biography, and I love it because he said John Lennon would come to his place, like Carl said, and he would leave horizontally. He would leave. They'd have to carry him out, and he talks about Yoko, and the last time that they carried him out. Yoko said something, I don't know why he does this to himself. I just don't know why.
And people don't realise that Keith basically hid himself in booze and drugs to escape the rock and roll lifestyle, because he didn't really like all the attention and the superficiality. Because here's a good point. So when the Stones went on the road, it was always Mick that would go to the nightclubs and hang out with the latest crowd, or keep his ears close to the latest genre. Hence, obviously the reggae, the punk, the disco era that they went with Emotional Rescue. Keith would hang back. And so that's why Keith and Charlie were probably quite close, because those guys, Charlie and Bill, were basically not hermits, but homebodies. And we
had Sam Cutler on the show. Remember, we interviewed Sam Cutler, and Sam Cutler said that they'd just sit there and drink cups of tea. Like, where's the rock and roll?
And there's that famous story in Exile on Main Street in France, where Bill Wyman had to drive 50 kilometres because he wanted to get his favourite marmalade and his favourite British tea. He wasn't interested in the heroin and the Graham Parsons and the, all that stuff. And Charlie the same. Which it's very endearing, isn't it? It's very endearing. Very endearing.
These are the stories I want to hear, So obviously, by the time by the time Sam Cutler had come to the scene and was involved in the inner circle, they'd put a lot of that kind of behaviour to one side, or certainly there were seasons to it. Who knows? But look, I agree with you. That's one of the great things about the Rolling Stones. They've got there's so many stories, so many snippets, a lot of photographs, a lot of documentaries that everyone's making in the chat. There's some good stuff out there, and we're witnessing the end of rock and roll as these guys get older. You and I and Simon have talked about it. I know that Kurt and Brad and I on a couple of the Sunday shows, we look at the age of these guys: 75, 76, 73, 72, 80.
Yep. Oh, it's incredible. I want to talk to Richard about it. I might as well talk about it now. The reporters would always hound, especially Mick. So is this the last tour? And I think did it start on the 75 tour or 72? I know they definitely got asked that question on the 78 tour.
75.
That started in the 75 tour. Is this the last tour, guys? You're in your early mid 30s. You've been at the top for a long time. Is this it? Is this the last one? So let's say 75. I'm 44. So another 45 years later, still going. So that just goes to show you anybody. That's why I love the Stones. You can be anything you want at any time, and you can start any time, and you can be great forever. Because look at them. That's why we keep thinking they're going to keep going, which unfortunately it's quite, what's the word? It's actually quite, not surreal. It's actually quite sobering, the fact that they are getting older, and it's a shame. It really is a shame. It's a shame. Other thing I want to mention too was there would be no Rolling Stones if there was 5 Keith Richards in the band. It would implode. It'd be destructible. So the Bill Wymans and the Charlie Watts keep the band together, not only on the music side but on the professional side. And another thing I wanted to mention also is Charlie would have had to have believed in them since day one, because didn't he had a paying gig prior to joining the Stones.
He was a well paid drummer. Yeah, playing with Blues and
Alex Corner.
Alex, yeah, that's it.
He had he had regular gigs, and he basically took a big risk to join the Stones, because the Stones they had the occasional gig. They were playing for tips and a few beers. So Charlie, in his internal wisdom, knew something from day one. These guys are special, and a lot of that's credited to Brian as well, Brian Jones. The drive, being a blues purist, they were quite unique back in '62, because there was a lot of average musicians and a lot of stuff going on. And when Charlie slotted in, they had a band.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point that you make.
Bill Wyman got the job because he had 3 amps.
Yeah, no, that's a good point that you make, because Brian and Charlie were playing together. They'd played together on stage before the Rolling Stones had formed. So there was this musical respect and admiration between the two of them. But from what I've picked up over the years, again, and Keith jumped into the mix and sort of took a side and said, look, Charlie's the man, and made it pretty clear to Brian that when you go around calling people Ernies, you're not going to call Charlie an Ernie, all right? Leave him alone. But I think you make a good point, though, about the fact that he was a reputable, respected drummer at an early age. Clearly, and again, this goes back to what these British cats were doing. They had obviously identified by listening to the way that he was drumming that this guy was unique. So it had nothing to do with anything else than the fact that he was a great drummer at the start.
Yep. And drummers should be seen and not heard, meaning of course you're going to hear his sound, but they've got to be part of the background. They've got to be an amalgamation between the bass and the rhythm guitar, which Charlie was good at. Had a nice touch. It wasn't too loud. That swing that he got by delay. There was a famous, who was it? It was an American producer or someone said that they got the Jimmy Reed down pat because there was so many bands doing Shame, Shame, Shame and Big Boss Man and murdering Jimmy Reed and murdering the blues. The Stones were the first band, especially from the young white perspective, to actually get it right. And that was Charlie Watts.
Yeah, well, and the swing aspect goes back to a fundamental thing that Simon, the rock professor, likes to remind us about. So in the 60s, early 60s, when you're playing in a lot of these clubs and bars, there's two things that you have to do. You know, you have to supply lots of piss, lots of beer. That's what we call beer here. Piss, beer. Lots of beer. And you have to be able to provide a forum or a place for people to dance, because girls love to dance. And the great thing about the Rolling Stones, with that swing right from the word go, you could rave to it and dance to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that first album, and Charlie, I mean, here we go. So Route 66, what's the first thing you hear? The drums kick off. Wow. And then the guitars come in. And there was a certain anger and a certain vitality. There was a certain, it was just a sound. I mean, I agree with you, Andrew. I'm going to watch some documentaries and play some Charlie Watts music today. I have to.
And also Rocks Off. You know, this is it. You hear the kick drum and Rocks Off.
Big time. Midnight Rambler, Monkey Man, Paint It Black, Get Off My Cloud. Wow, amazing. Red Rooster.
Yeah. And see, Simon's made another thing here of a comment about Route 66, how it speeds up. So does Honky Tonk Woman. So Honky Tonk Woman goes from about 103 beats per minute and ends up 109 beats.
On purpose, or that was the sound they wanted, or was it just the way it happened?
It's just the way that it happens, bro. It's just the way. Yep. So go and check that out. So that's just I'm not going to swear here. I'm going to say one word, but this is the organic shit that this great bands were doing. These English bands, you know, and they had these great producers, and they were capturing all this stuff on tape, you know, that you probably wouldn't do today, because you've got your computer screen, as Simon likes to say, and all the levels have got to be at the same level, and you've got to make sure it looks pretty on this computer screen that you've got. Whereas, you know, Jimmy Miller, what was he doing?
He was producing, listening. Yep,
listening.
Wow. Yes. And Jimmy Miller did that classic period, didn't he?
Yes, Simon.
4 albums.
Simon's just off to bed.
Oh, it's a bit late there in England, is it? That's why I couldn't be on.
1 a.m. Yeah.
Oh wow, golly. The other thing I was going to mention about Charlie was when you're playing things like Shake Your Hips, the Slim Harpo stuff. That's not easy to do. That blues rhythm is very, it's not easy. Not easy to do at all. So, yeah. Sad loss. I'll be inundated with a few calls and texts today, I imagine.
Well, look, I appreciate the fact, brother, that you've taken, you know, it's one of the fruits, I suppose, from this lockdown, that we've got an opportunity. I would love to do another show with you with Foxy. So Foxy's agreed to do something tomorrow. So we'll jump on and we'll reminisce again. It'd be really cool to get Foxy's perspective. So everyone that's joined us, Crappy Luxury, Kurt 5150, our brother, Alan, Hoss, Arvin, Kubrick Lover, Dog Pa, who else? Pooh Ninja was in here. I'm just going through. Gunler, thank you guys for joining us. Who else have I missed? I'm going back. Oh, Lordy, Pickabella Cotton. Oh, Lordy. Nerd Halen, Pickabella Day. Quentin James. Oh, my gosh. Hugh Cordwell. So, Stephen. You guys are awesome. Thank you for hanging out with a couple of Kiwis. We're going to have the Kiwi Stone, Richard Fox, with us at some stage tomorrow. Appreciate the fact that you guys love the Rolling Stones. The Rolling Stones, pivotal band in my life. Carl's all-time favourite band. This channel has its roots and its foundation in talking all things Rolling Stones, Carl.
Absolutely. From day one, we were talking about the Rolling Stones and their impact on music as we know it, their blues and their how many bands they've influenced. And everybody in the chat, I want to say thank you for Andrew for organising this at such short notice. But please stay tuned for Richard Fox, because he's actually met Charlie Watts in person. I've known Richard since I was about 13, and Richard he's a bit like a sailor or a pirate. He's got lots of stories, but what's different about his stories is they're actually authentic. I won't blow too much smoke up, but Richard's credited in documentaries as being credited for providing memorabilia. That's the sort of fan that he is. We're lucky to know him. Very fortunate to know him.
Documentaries and books. Yeah, he's mentioned in documentaries and books. So he is an organic intellectual when it comes to all things Rolling Stones. So I just want to echo what Carl said. So, we love the Stones. We love British blues, guys. We love the fact that you've spent some time hanging out with us. At one stage we had 20 people. If you like the channel, we do, I've got to do some business here. We want to get our subs up to 1,000. We've about 666. So we don't have a huge amount to get 1,000 by the end of the year. If you can help us do that, that'll be good. So keep in touch with us. So we're going to do another Rolling Stones special tomorrow. I'm going live with Brad and Hoss. We're going to be talking about Iron Maiden's Number of the Beast. Carl, are you around tomorrow at 2:00? Do you want to jump?
I'll check my diary. I don't know much about Iron Maiden, to be honest. I do know a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to listen in.
Okay. Well, I'll flick you the invite anyway. So if you want to jump on, so we're going to talk about. Actually, it's a takeover. Hoss is going to take over the midweek show, and we're going to talk about that fundamental new wave of British heavy metal album.
Yeah.
Back in the day, Jeepers, we're getting old, man. Gosh, I remember when that album. Gosh, I just want to share one story with you guys. So, I was 14 years old. I'll never forget this. And I remember I was with some group of friends, and we were talking about music. And it came to my turn, and wow, what music are you listening to? And I said, I'm listening to the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. I just shot it out. And then I think there was about 5 or 6 people in this group, and they all turned around and said to me, "What are you doing listening to that old shit for?"
And I bet you those guys now listen to the Stones.
Yeah, I know, that's not a bullshit. That's not an Andrew bullshit. That's a true story.
I was in the same boat at Boys High. I had this purple suede leather bag. That's how I met Richard. I was a bloodhound at the record stores trying to get anything Rolling Stones, and people thought I was weird. They're like, aren't those guys from the 60s? Or that's the stuff my dad listened to. But funnily enough, I had these people, 3 or 4 guys that would follow me around the record stores, and they became Stones fans. And to this day, I get from my old friends from school messages saying, "Hey, Carl, man, I've got Beggar's Banquet, Let It Bleed. It's awesome. Sticky Fingers, man, that's my favourite album now, Carl." You know, just goes to show you, don't judge a book by its cover or the colour of their hair if it's grey. There's a lot of wisdom in that beard.
I've been fortunate enough to have been in your situation a couple of times. I remember once we were at it was a stag party. Anyway, this guy, I'm not going to mention his name, he came up to me, and I kind of didn't like him back in the day, but he came up to me, and I'd had a couple of beers by then, so you got to be sociable at stag do's. So I having a bit of a chat there, and he goes, "I've got some good news for you." And I'm going, "Oh, good, you're going to piss off." And he goes, No. I've listened to Stones, Exile on Main Street. You know how I used to give you shit back at school about how it was bad music and it was shit music. It's my favourite album.
That's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, so I bought him a beer. I bought him a beer.
and he became one of your friends.
Yeah. And also another friend of mine too. I remember once recently we'd caught up somewhere in a social situation, and he said to me, he goes, I remember giving you shit about Guns N' Roses when Appetite for Destruction came out. I gave you shit, because he was listening to Saxon and Budgie and that kind of metal, British metal. And he said, he goes, they're my favourite band. And he showed me his tattoo.
Became a super fan overnight.
Yeah. But again, isn't it one of those great things about music, isn't it? That sometimes it takes a while to switch on to the cool shit.
Well, I mean, we're programmed through the media, unfortunately, where we're not forced, but everybody's rates music on the current top 40. But what the Stones taught us, and Keith's mentioned it, is, hey, listen, we've got to have a hot song to get on the radio. Okay, Satisfaction last time, but the Stones created albums along with the Beatles, so they tried to make every song count. Where from day one, the record companies basically want to produce product. You have a nice girl on the cover. You have a hot song, Pat Boone doing Tutti Frutti, and everybody's, that's it. It's disposable. And that's why I was a Stones fan from day one. I was like, I'm listening to Get Your Yayas Out, and every song's good, because I went down the same Andrew road. I was listening to various metal bands and Def Leppard and Foreigner and, dare I say it, Duran Duran. I thought, man, there's a lot of crap on these albums. There's some good songs, but a lot of filler. I had to keep going back to the Stones. And with the Stones, the Stones open up these huge doors for everything else. Blues, R&B, Sam Cooke, reggae, Bob Marley, Slim Harpo. The list goes on. Chuck Berry, the list goes on and on and on. Muddy Waters.
I'm just reading a couple of comments in the chat by Hoss and Kurt, the Rev 5150. So what I'll do, guys, is I'll be in touch with Carl and Foxy, and we'll organise what time we're going to go live tomorrow. I'll flick you guys an invite. So if you guys want to jump on and make it a little bit of a community hang so that you guys can come on and talk about Charlie Watts and what Charlie Watts means to you, you're more than welcome, guys. So Rev, I'll flick that through to you. You might have to set your alarm. And also Hoss, we'll do the same thing with you and Brad. So we'll have a few guys here. I've said most of my talking, so I won't do a lot of the talking. But if you guys want to jump on and meet Foxy and Carl live and talk about the Rolling Stones, you're more than welcome to. I just want to do a quick shout out, bro. We've got Susan in the chat. Thank you, Susan. Yes, it's sad news, but don't ditch Duran Duran, bro. I know that we give Duran Duran a bit of shit, but that rhythm section in Duran Duran, John Taylor, what a monster bass player. Go and check that guy. Just a phenomenal bass player.
Yeah. Oh, no, I agree. No, I mean, there's some good songs. But what Andrew was saying about jumping on, that'd be great, because if anybody had a favourite Charlie Watts story or a Charlie Watts song or a drum beat that they loved, share it. I know Richard's going to have lots of stories. It'll give me time to come up with some stories, because there's some certain songs or certain albums or certain things that Charlie said that really that are really Charlie, very Stonesy.
Cool. So Kurt's in, so we'll flick the Rev an invite and jump on. And Deja Voodoo, good to see you guys. So appreciate that. And if anybody else ever wants, that's a regular in our chat, that ever wants to jump on and hang out with us and just shoot the breeze and talk about music, flick me a message, flick the Rev a message, Hoss a message, Brad a message, Simon a message. You know who we are. You know where we are on Instagram. Flick us a message and we'll get you on. And all you need's a phone. That's all you need.
My laptop's at work. I can't get it because of level 4, so I'm surviving.
Yeah. Andy Taylor, awesome guitar player. Yeah, from Duran Duran. You know, a good Newcastle lad. Yeah. Absolute mayhem. Happy birthday, young fella. It was his birthday a couple of weeks ago. I think he turned 23 or something like that.
Wow. What a good age. Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it. A Charlie tribute show.
Okay.
Be there or be square.
Okay, so I'll organise something with Foxy. I'll flick out the invites, and we'll look forward to doing a Charlie tribute.
And I might give Charlie Richard a bit of time to bring out some gems or nuggets, like a Charlie mask or a Charlie drumstick or a Charlie poem or a Charlie quote or a joke, something. Because he's done that in the past, hasn't he? When we had Richard on the show, he's Rolling Stones Dorito chips, some Rolling Stones bubblegum, Rolling Stones stories, something about stuck on the tarmac. Yeah, all that sort of stuff.
Awesome. We've got Guitar Hack in the chat. Guitar Hack's playing guitar live, so he's jumping up and down. He's happy. He's got some gigs to go to. So sad news, but as Carl said at the top of the show, guys, you know, sad news, but it's a celebration. 80 years of a tremendous life, rock and roll giant. Stay tuned. We'll be with you guys tomorrow. So we're going to split. You guys
tell Guitar Hack that I'm enjoying watching his face where he puts his face on Tom Hanks on the movie Forrest Gump and Scarface and all that sort of stuff. Have you seen that face swap thing? I need to try that.
No, you're handsome enough. You don't need to do it, mate. Don't do it.
Oh no, yeah, it's going to be a good show tomorrow.
All right, okay. Where are we?
And maybe Simon, what time where the whole world is at the same time, even though we're all different equators and different time zones? What's the best time, you think? Where Simon's up, we're up, the Americans are up.
No. So it's got to be around Foxy.
Okay.
So we'll flick out the invite, and if these guys have to set their alarm clock to get up and get on, you know, it's a gig, brother. You got to do it for the gig.
And if some maybe without getting the show too crowded, if somebody knows a drummer that could get on the show, because obviously Andrew and I know a little bit about the guitar. I think I know stuff about the drums, but I don't really because I don't play it. If there was a drummer in the audience or or someone knew a drummer who could just just talk about maybe his technique or something, that'd be great.
Awesome. Okay, well, we'll work on that. But we're going to split. Good to see you, Carl. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to see you. Your passion for the Rolling Stones and the guitar drove me forward, took me up to another level. So you think you know it all. You think you're comfortable where you are, and this is one of the great things about meeting people and hooking up with friends. They can drive you, set a fire under you, and inspire you. And you did that for me. So you'll always be an important person. And I mean that sincerely, bro, in my life, because I heard something about the Stones after listening to them through talking with you that I hadn't heard, and that's cool.
Oh, thank you. No, I just like Keith said, we're here to share the message, share the love, the music.
Awesome, brother. See you tomorrow.
Oh, we're out. Okay, cool. Hey, rest in peace, Charlie. Thank you so much, and we'll continue this tomorrow.
Later.
See you, buddy.